Come, my friend, let us return to the garden of your soul. But the garden we enter today is not the one we left behind. The storm has passed. The devastation is a distant memory, a healed scar on the bark of the old oak tree. Look around you now. This is not just a restored garden, it is a resurrected one. Interactive meditation prompt. Entering the abundance, close your eyes. Let's experience this new season together with all our senses. What do you see? The colors are dazzling, almost supernatural. The roses are deeper red, the lilies purer white than you have ever seen. The fruit hanging from the branches is so heavy, so plump, that the boughs themselves bend in worship. Now, what do you hear? The air is not silent. It is thrumming with life. The buzz of 1,000 honeybees, the joyful song of birds return to the branches. The gentle rustle of leaves, so dense and full of life they seem to whisper secrets to each other. Breathe in deeply. What do you smell? It is the intoxicating perfume of abundance, the sweet nectar of honeysuckle, the rich aroma of ripe peaches, the earthy scent of soil, so fertile it feels electric. That this is the garden of a promise fulfilled. This is the evidence of the master gardener's restorative power. It is everything you ever prayed for, and more. And yet, why is your heart not entirely at peace? Why, in the midst of this overwhelming blessing, do you feel a new and unfamiliar weight on your shoulders? This, dear gardener, is the paradox and the test of abundance. And it is here, in this season of overflow, that the master gardener wants to teach you one of his deepest lessons, how to carry a blessing without being crushed by it. Chapter 1, the first temptation of the harvest, the whisper of mine, the narrative scene, the gardener's pride. The first few weeks of the harvest are pure joy. You, the gardener, wake up each morning in awe. You walk the paths, touching the heavy fruit, marveling at the vibrant colors. Visitors come to the gate, they gasp at the beauty and the abundance of your garden. How did you do this? They ask. And at first you answer correctly. It was the master gardener, you say. It is all his work. But slowly, subtly, a change begins. After the 100th compliment, a new thought takes root. It's a small, quiet thought, almost unnoticeable. It starts with, I worked hard for this too. Then it morphs into, look at what we accomplished. And finally, it settles in your heart as a dangerous whisper. Look at my garden. You begin to take just a little too much credit. You find yourself comparing your garden to your neighbor's, feeling a secret thrill of pride at how much more abundant yours is. You start to see the harvest not as a gift you are stewarding, but as a trophy you have earned. The focus shifts from the giver to the gift, and then from the gift to the gardener. This is the first and most subtle temptation of a blessed season. The temptation of ownership, the deeper meaning, the paradox of possession. The great paradox of spiritual blessing is this. The moment you believe you possess it, you begin to lose it. The blessings of God are meant to flow through you, not to terminate in you. The moment you clench your fist around a blessing and call it mine, you cut off the flow from heaven. Pride is a spiritual dam. It stops the river of grace. The enemy knows this. After he failed to destroy you in the storm, his strategy changes. He no longer attacks you with fear and despair. He now attacks you with flattery and pride. He whispers, you deserve this. You're special. Look at what you've achieved. He wants you to become so infatuated with the fruit that you forget the one who made it grow, because if he can get you to take the glory, he knows the grace will eventually lift. The interactive meditation and toolkit, the his, not mine mantra. Let's pause here. In your own life, where has blessing and success begun to feel like your accomplishment rather than his grace? The successful career, the well-behaved children, the respected ministry. Bring that area to mind. Let's practice a humbling exercise. Together, in your heart, I want you to visualize yourself holding that accomplishment, that beautiful, ripe piece of fruit from your garden. Admire it, acknowledge the work you put in, but now see the master gardener standing before you. And with an open hand, I want you to offer it back to him. As you do, let's pray this mantra of the heart together. Whisper it with me. Lord, this is yours. The idea was yours. The strength was yours. The growth was yours. The harvest is yours. I am not the owner. I am the steward. Let all the glory return to you. Do this every time you feel the poison of pride begin to rise. This simple act of reconsecration keeps the channels of grace wide open. Chapter 2, the second. Temptation of the harvest. The exhaustion of doing. The narrative scene. The weary gardener of the harvest is so overwhelming, so relentless, that your life changes. You wake before dawn, not with joyful anticipation, but with a sense of pressure. There are fruits to be picked, vegetables to be gathered, everything to be sorted and stored. You work until long after the sun has set, your back aching, your hands raw. The joy of the harvest has become the burden of the harvest. You find yourself too busy to take those quiet walks with the master gardener in the cool of the morning. You tell yourself, he understands, I'm just stewarding his blessing. Your prayer time becomes a quick, distracted to-do list shouted over your shoulder as you rush to your next task. You are so busy working for God that you no longer have time to simply be with God. You have become a slave to the very blessing you prayed for. The deeper meaning, the paradox of a burdensome blessing here is the second great paradox of abundance. A blessing from God that replaces your intimacy with God has ceased to be a blessing. It has become a beautifully decorated idol. The enemy's backup plan is simple. If he can't destroy you with despair, he will try to destroy you with distraction. Even a good, God-given distraction. He wants you to become so consumed with managing the blessing that you neglect the blesser. He knows that a branch, no matter how much fruit it is bearing, will eventually wither if it disconnects from the vine. Your rest is an act of worship. Your stillness is an act of trust. It is a declaration that says, this garden's ultimate success does not depend on my frantic effort, but on his sovereign grace. When you prioritize your work over your worship, you have begun to believe, once again, that you are the true source of the garden's success. The interactive meditation and toolkit, the Sabbath of the harvest practice. Are you here right now, overwhelmed by the very success you prayed for? Let's stop together right now. Stop the frantic harvesting in your mind. Let's take a Sabbath breath. Breathe in for a count of 4, and hold it. Feel the stillness. Now, exhale for a count of 8, releasing the pressure, the deadlines, the weight of the harvest. Let it go. Now, I want you to visualize the master gardener walking up to you in the midst of your chaotic work. He gently takes the heavy basket from your arms. He takes the rake from your hand, and he says, come, let the harvest wait. Walk with me for a while. Feel the relief of that invitation. He is not disappointed in you. He is inviting you back to himself. Your first step in navigating this season is to give yourself permission to rest without guilt. Here's how. Schedule your Sabbath. Look at your calendar for the coming week. Find one 3-hour block of time. Mark an appointment with the master gardener. This is non-negotiable. It is more important than any other task. Define rest. During this time, you are forbidden from doing anything that feels like managing the harvest. Your only job is to do something that refills your soul and reconnects you with God. A walk in nature, sit by the water, read a book of poetry, listen to worship music with your eyes closed. Do nothing, the prayer of trust. Begin your Sabbath time with this prayer. Lord, I am laying down my tools. I am trusting that you can sustain this garden for a few hours without my help. I am choosing your presence over my productivity. Please restore my soul. Chapter 3, the third temptation of the harvest, the fear of losing. The narrative scene. The hoarding gardener. The storm has left a deep scar on your memory. As you gather the abundant harvest, a new fear begins to creep into your heart. You look at the overflowing baskets and you think, what if another storm comes? What if a drought comes next? What if the locusts return? The memory of past lack begins to poison the joy of present abundance, so you begin to hoard. You build bigger and bigger storehouses. You gather every last piece of fruit, not out of gratitude, but out of a fear of a future scarcity. You see, the hungry people outside your gates, but you hesitate to share. I need to save this, you tell yourself. I need to make sure my own future is secure. You have survived the storm, only to become a prisoner to its memory. The blessing has not brought freedom, it has brought a new kind of bondage, the bondage of fear. The deeper meaning, the paradox of keeping by giving away. This brings us to the third and most profound paradox of stewarding a blessing. The only way to keep what God has given you is to give it away. In God's divine economy, resources are like a river, not a reservoir. A reservoir that only takes in water but has no outlet eventually becomes stagnant, brackish, and dead. A river, which is constantly giving away its water as it flows, remains fresh, clean, and full of life because it is always being refilled from the source. When you hoard your blessings, your money, your time, your gifts out of fear, you are essentially building a dam and turning your river into a stagnant reservoir. You are signaling to heaven that you trust your own storehouse more than you trust God's source. This cuts off the flow. Generosity is not a loss. It is an act of supreme faith. It is the declaration that says, my source is not this harvest. My source is the master gardener who can produce a harvest at any time. Because I trust the source, I can be fearlessly generous with the resources. The interactive meditation and toolkit, the open gate policy, let's address the fear of lack head on. What are you hoarding in your life right now? Is it money, time, affection, forgiveness? You're holding on to it because you're afraid that if you give it away, there won't be enough left for you. Then your mind's eye, I want you to walk to the big, heavy door of your storehouse. See it locked and barred. Feel the fear that keeps it shut. Now, see the master gardener standing next to you. He doesn't force the door, he simply hands you a key. The key is inscribed with one word, trust. Let's pray this together. Lord, I confess my fear of lack. I confess that I have been trusting my storehouse more than your source. Today, I choose to take the key of trust. I choose to believe that you are a river that never runs dry. Now, see yourself turning the key and opening the door to your storehouse. It is not an act of loss. It is an act of liberation. You are choosing to be a river, not a reservoir. Here's your practical plan. 1. The first fruit principle. The antidote to hoarding is intentional. Prioritized giving. Before you pay your bills, before you put money into savings, make a decision to give the first fruits of your harvest away. This could be your tithe to your church, or a gift to a ministry or person in need. This act breaks the spirit of fear and declares that God is your primary source of security. 2. The overflow system. Create a separate bank account or even a simple jar labeled overflow or kingdom giving. Every time you receive income or a blessing, intentionally put a portion into this fund before you calculate your own expenses. This creates a tangible resource for generosity and retrains your brain to think in terms of overflow, not just survival. 3. The spontaneous generosity challenge. Pray this prayer each week. Lord, this week, show me one person I can spontaneously bless with the resources you have given me. Then, keep your eyes open. It might be buying lunch for a coworker, sending a small gift card to a struggling family, or paying for the coffee of the person behind you. This practice turns generosity from a planned transaction into a joyful, spirit-led lifestyle. Conclusion. The joy of the co-gardener, the master gardener, looks at you, standing before your open storehouse, a new peace on your face. He smiles. Now, he says, now the restoration is complete. Not when the harvest came in, but now, when it begins to flow out. He leads you to the gate of your garden, and together, you begin to pass out the abundant fruit to the hungry and grateful people waiting outside. And in their smiles, in their thankfulness, you feel a joy far deeper and richer than any pride you felt in just possessing the harvest. You have learned the final lesson. The purpose of a restored garden is not just to be beautiful, it is to be a source of life for others. The purpose of a blessed life is not to accumulate, it is to distribute. You are not just a gardener, you are a co-laborer with God, a conduit of His grace, a steward of His miraculous abundance. Your pain has become purpose. Your trial has become a testimony, and your garden has become a preview of heaven on earth.